Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you and Gloves Off, and today we have a great guest coming all the way from Dallas area, Euless actually, checking up on the border, and they're coming down here and also doing a little research on the colonias of South Texas. And believe me, we have several here in Webb County that we want to go take a look at, and we're going to touch base on what it is. And my guest is Sheena Rodriguez, and she's with Lions for a Safe Texas. How are we doing?
So happy to be here and get to see the studios or the gym, and get to be here back in Laredo. It's been a little while, so it's a beautiful historical city, and so I'm so happy to be back down here.
Well, we're glad we came down, and and we always appreciate your work and what you've been doing, and so on and so forth. And it's great to see that people are involved, because there's a lot of parts to this huge puzzle we call life. There's a lot of little missing pieces, and we're trying to figure out what that piece is to put it in there and correct it. And we're not saying that we live in an immaculate city, but Laredo has its own bits and pieces that need fixing. And the colonias has always been an issue that every couple of years they come up because of, because of political reasons. People use them as an escape. But I want to talk to you about what you've seen, because you've seen a lot of colonias throughout Texas, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to go through it and take it from there. What?
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I think it was, and I just came here from Eagle Pass, spent a few days over there in Eagle Pass, and I had even seen some of the colonia areas in Eagle Pass and Del Rio for a few years now, and then wanted to come see them here in Laredo, and then of course there was been a lot of attention on the colonia-like, I guess you could say, developments up north of Houston, and spent some time out there. So just trying to compare and contrast, and over the last few years I've seen a lot, and wanting to see what the real issues are, because like you said, like whenever elections come around, certain issues, always tend to come up. And so, is the issues really even being addressed, right? When people get it. And so that's a whole other side. But I say all of that because I don't like going off of just what people say. I like seeing it for myself and seeing the true impacts to the communities. What is it really like? Because these are issues that impact the communities, and they're issues that impact people, real life people. And that's what I care about, So as I'm advocating within our state legislature, I want to be able to come from a perspective, that human perspective of this is what's really happening. Forget all the noise and the nonsense that's surrounding whatever issue it is, right? This is what's really going on. And so there's nothing like being able to see and experience these things in person.
Absolutely. The history of colonias comes back to the 70s, and a lot of people were breaking up land and selling it off less than 5 acres, 2 acres, 3 acres. So people were buying it to have something to go on the weekends. And then all of a sudden people started living out there. You know, there were no conditions out there. So, you know, they passed several laws, and one of them was a ranchette laws. You know, you couldn't sell anything less than 10 acres. If you were going to break something up like that. And I think it's changed now again, but that's what it was, the way it was when I studied it back then, because there was a lot of problems, because a lot of individuals started, I'm going to live over there. Why? Because I don't want to pay the taxes. And all of a sudden, this family did it, that other family did it. All of a sudden now you have a community that's outside the city limits. It's still within the county municipality, but they have no amenities over there. There's no electricity in some cases. There's no sewage, water. There's no policing. Usually the sheriffs or the constables are the ones that are driving those areas. So you started seeing we need something. Now a lot of, and I see both sides, because I see those that live in those areas, they say we need water, clean water, of course, we need everybody. But to bring water out there from a municipality like Laredo to go take the water out, it costs money to go out there, and you have to start paying taxes. Yeah, but don't charge us taxes because we're not part of this, you know. So then they say, well, we can only take the water up so far. It's up to the county to supply water for you.
Right.
So you have that conundrum, that the people, that basic problem that's there. Then you start seeing individuals with, well, I really want to do it this way. So, you know, and I really don't want to be part of the city, but want to stay out. So I understand that freedom that people have. But it is a problem that we do have, because we do have to give everybody, you know, a better sense of living.
Right.
And, you know, you saw it firsthand.
It's like a lot of what you see is like what we would consider third world type of conditions.
Absolutely.
And I think, but that, and you kind of touched upon it, is the issues of the colonias. And I think that this has been one of my personal frustrations more recently with the issues of the colonia-like, you know, conditions that is expanding rapidly in like Liberty and San Jacinto counties, over there with like the Colony Ridge area. And that's been in the news a lot. And our state legislators talked about that a lot. I've been out there a number of times. I see the good and the bad, right? I've seen it, I've written about it. But I think the reason why that's gotten so much attention is because also when people saw some of the realities of that area and some of the crime that's in there and some of the third world type of conditions that were in there, your everyday American that that hasn't been exposed to that type, you know, is shocked and like, oh my gosh. Well, yeah, but to your point, colonias have existed in Texas for quite some time. This isn't new, nor are the issues new. And I think there's been tremendous efforts from the congressional side to the state side. You know, like the state legislatures have passed numerous bills attempting to try and solve some of these issues or make it better for people. And there's been some slow improvements, right? A lot of money has been poured into this, you know, the colonias issue for quite some time, again, on the federal and the state level. But then when you really dive into the nuances of it, right? You talked about it before, the taxes, the county, the city. And that's one of the things that it's important to try to research and understand and see for yourself the issues, because it is very important for several different reasons. But also you then have to understand the complexities of it. I as a conservative myself, I don't ever want to advocate government overreach, right? And it's that fine line. When you look up even and by that I mean going from, you can pass so much legislation, but do you really want to start diving more into the state having overreach into the county and city and municipalities? Do you want the federal government to, you know, so like where is that fine line of balance? Because there is pros and cons to all of this. And once you start diving down certain rabbit holes and start crossing those barriers, it's very hard to retract some of that, right? But I think also on the flip side, when you look at the statistics, when you look at the realities of, this is just the humanness, right? Of, yes, but they don't have clean water. Yes, but they're more susceptible. I was just reading the study, right, as we were having lunch, some studies that were done showing some of the higher percentages in hepatitis and other, very dangerous diseases.
Because of the sanitation.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you have those issues, when you live in the city, in a municipality, let's just say Laredo, I'm just going to place it for that. There's building codes as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's building codes for, you're going to get a building permit, electrician's going to come out there, a plumber's going to come out there, a structural guy's going to come out there. Those building inspectors are there for a reason. The fire marshal's going to come out there for a reason. And some of these houses, and I know that they're cherished by the people that live there, not disrespecting them or whatever. It's a hodgepodge of a bunch of stuff to just place together.
Yeah.
And when you do that, I understand what they're trying to do. I'm building it myself. I'm doing this. You're having that pride that you're doing it in your own lonesome and you're going ahead in life and everybody wants, every man's a castle kind of issue. But there's safety's involved as well. And
the safety of the neighbors.
And
surrounding
the whole entity. Mm-hmm. And we have to be very careful how it is. I know that the commissioners have been working steadily to kind of push things in a direction for betterment. But there's a difference between saying, I live over here, you all have to give me this, but we're not going to pay no taxes. But how about the taxpayers here going to say, hey, no, I'm sorry, but do we annex them and bring them in? We can, but then all of a sudden everything has to be met.
It's more complicated, right?
So people are, so where are we at? Impoverished, I wouldn't say the word impoverished, right? Because it's third world country like thing. It's because of the way it's been, there's not, the amenities aren't there.
Right.
So you end up in that type of situation. Some people there that live there probably have more money.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that what occurs is the building and the codes and everything are not up to par to what everybody else is at. So you kind of see that in there. You'll see a lot more of that develop because a lot more people, because of taxes, are going to be moving out. Look at the way San Francisco is. I mean, you have that inside the city.
Yep.
That type of hodgepodge. Buildings made up out of cardboard and
thrown together materials.
And that's happening now. I mean, we better start taking care of ourselves here. How much did they send to Ukraine?
Billions and billions and billions and more additional. And I think that that's some of my frustration, and that's one of the reasons why the last few years I focused on the colonias, because I recognized that not only has this been an existing issue for some time now, but this is going to continue to be a problem. This is only, and I say this okay, let's backtrack a second. First, we know that Texas continues to grow exponentially. And we have, and I know I talked about this, kind of just that little irk or that frustration of seeing these types of conditions still existing in Texas, throughout Texas, yet all of these new houses, all of these new developments, all these new, just growth, just booming, and brand new spanking houses. And it's like, gosh, can we get a little bit of money over here for the existing communities that have been, that still have problems? But then again, it goes into the nuances of, inside city limits, metroplex areas, suburb. But to that point, I've even seen, we're seeing where even in the rural areas across Texas, you could look it up anywhere in Texas. Let's just say Glen Rose, Texas, which is not too far from my area, DFW area. There are people that are selling their land, right? And what can happen? Now that's an area that could be an unregulated area, right? And you get someone who buys that property and then starts splitting them up and then selling them, in small and making it kind of like your owner finance, which is what's happening out there in Colony Ridge, right? And then it attracts other. So as these nicer developments are happening, so are the other developments as well. And so and so I say that because these are issues that if we don't study them and look at them and understand them and try to understand the complexities and possible solutions, which people have been trying to do for a very long time, this can continue to expand across the state in areas far removed from the Texas-Mexico border, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the other, because I even said a lot of what we saw out there is no different than what I see in downtown Dallas, in the sense of some of the construction and some of the way
construction and the way they live.
but it's the codes. It's the fact that at least in Dallas, if you have a crumbling housing unit, they still at least have electricity. They still at least have water. They have some way to try to combat those, because there's those codes and those restrictions are in place, as opposed to areas like what we view today. It's
Absolutely.
a lot harder.
And it's sad, and like I said, I think we're spending too much money right now. America is in other countries, so we have to fix up our own country, and that's plain and simple. I was reading in some place that I think it was like 2 billion would stop homelessness, and everybody would have a house, and we just send I don't know how many to Ukraine. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in a situation we better start taking care of us.
Yeah, America's and that's the other side of it too. You see all the money that we're spending overseas, that I personally don't agree with, because there are so many existing issues. But then even when we go back to even the border issues, and how much is that costing? How much is that? And those, unfortunately, are the very type of population as well that's going to look for those colonia types of accommodations.
Sure.
Because they lack documentation, they lack the financial means immediately out the door. So that also goes to, again, the ever expanding issues across the state. And these are issues too that other states are going to continue having to deal with as well. So it's just the reality when we are spending so much money on not Americans, on not America,
Spending in other countries, and I understand it, but we have to fix our own here.
Yes, agreed.
When we're driving, and you guys are going to see the videos throughout them, and they're throughout the whole thing. And in one area was closer to town, it had some asphalt roads, but the one that was further away from town had dirt roads. But not so long ago, Laredo had dirt roads.
Right.
This was a dirt road.
Right.
Most of the other streets.
Most of rural Texas even is like that, yeah.
And most of Laredo back in the 80s and up to mid 90s were dirt roads. They really didn't pave everything until 2000.
Right.
So what happens? We need to understand that things change, and we need to change. Now, to have all the amenities, and I see it both sides, and I go back to the same question. What's more important? I understand that the paying of the taxes, they're going to raise the taxes if they put water, electricity, and pave roads, and fire hydrants, and all that.
Right.
It's going to take money.
Right.
And set up a fire station closer to that area.
Well, see, and I think that's even goes back to the basis of what a colonia really is, right? Is there's a lot of instances where people were attracted to that area because it was cheaper, because it was less taxes, because it was unrestricted, so it was easier to build those types of living conditions, and to slap together materials until you could save up to build something else, right? But on the flip side, some of them also purchased those lands under the guise of those who sold those properties that, but we're going to be developing these things. Well, years later, that development never came because these are complex issues, and yet they still had to. So it's also, and that also comes back to, especially, and I think that this is one of the look, like my husband was born and raised in Dallas, right? Came from poverty, right? And I think that's also that poverty mentality that you don't understand how things work. You don't, and so you're easier to take advantage of, and that keeps you in the shackles of poverty. And so when they let's say purchase a plot, and well, yeah, this is, I can do all these things and I can build, whatever I can afford, I can build this up and then I can pay off this property for my family, which is what, especially like the colonias here they've been here for a very long time. They've been established for a very long time, and you see other buildings on the same property to accommodate other family members, right, as they've come along throughout the years. But I think that's the other thing is also education, because when you have when you've lived in that type of poverty mentality, and you're trying to better yourself and you're trying to better your family, we have to have better education of how things work, and to so that this way they're not as easily exploitable. But then on the same token, like you said, part of that education is, well, now you know that your developer made promises that they didn't keep, and we're willing and able to help you, and we have the federal money and state money that's able to help develop these areas, but understand that this is going to cause taxes to go up. And then if they're like, well, that's not what I signed up for. Again, like you said, I understand it, but at least it's an educated, informed decision.
Right. And I think there's been efforts to put out water in certain areas and bring out water to certain places, and I know they're always changing their perspective on what's going on. They're always looking for a betterment. But there's several colonias like that around Laredo.
Right.
I mean, we just went to 2 out of
Several.
that exist in Webb County. And all the counties along South Texas are going to have those elements. That's why they made that. That's why they made that ranchette law. And so you don't get that, because they were selling it as, this is your ranch. You can go over there. You can fish. You can hunt. You can do whatever. And nothing was ever done. And all of a sudden now we have now we have a little town out there.
Yeah.
So. We'll be seeing a lot more of this goes up. They'd probably change the name somewhere in rural Kentucky, and then it's the same thing. And they go in rural
copy paste.
And Kentucky, Tennessee, I've seen similar communities out.
Yeah.
And then we have way too many of them.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to understand that, especially here. That's what, if we're gonna fix it, we have to start fixing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And over here, everything has to be going at the same time. We can move something and keep something low. It's a matter of time to just gross it and makes this low as well. So,
right.
And that's so we have to fix it all, or I'm for fixing the United States.
Yeah.
I'm for helping our others extend that helping hand, but not to give everything for them while we suffer.
Exactly.
That's a total different entity, and right now, America has to take care of itself. And folks, you guys have to understand that its actions do have consequences.
Well, and I think that that's the other part of this too, is that as we've talked about this and the different nuances and the complexities of it, this is one of the issues. I think I said it earlier when we were driving around, that this is one of the issues, one of many, where local elections matter the most. Where it's important to become educated, become involved, and if this is an issue that you see, that you're trying to help the community, hold your elected officials accountable, because this is going to be an issue where your county commissioners, your local officials, this is where they have the most influence of these type of issues over, to try and correct some of these and make a betterment and improvements for the communities and the people in your communities. So that also goes to that, as well as just, local elections are going to impact you the most directly.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue talking here and researching more of the stuff that's going on. But if you guys are interested in her group that's been doing a lot, the description is going to be on the bottom on the video description. But if you all like it, share it, ask questions, because that's the only way we can continue bringing to you all issues that affect our community. And you know, we have somebody from Dallas that's come to Laredo to see how we can change things and fight for those in Austin, and that's beautiful. And leave you this until next time. You all be safe. God bless and take care.